This is a Nekko Media podcast.
What's your pleasure, sir?
Welcome, cinephiles and cenobites. On this show, we have writer, actor, craft, services master, Bruce Nachsin. You may know him as the Dark Specter, a warehouse fighting supervisor, or being in the Doghouse. If not, check out the links in the show notes. Mox and Nono went into overtime with Bruce, as this episode is the first part of a two-part conversation. Bruce shares his stories of various productions he's worked on, what's important to have on a film set, and his approach to working and collaborating with fellow filmmakers. It was a long and adventurous conversation. Here's part one with our talk with Bruce Nachsin.
All right, well, welcome to another episode of the Cinephiles and Cenobites podcast. I'm your host, Onofre, and with me, my other creative half, Mox.
What's up?
Today, we have a guest on the show. We have writer, producer, actor, director, Bruce.
Caterer.
Yes. We have a
man gang.
Bruce Nachsin on the show.
Hi.
Welcome, Bruce.
Hi. Thank you.
Skyping in from Los Angeles, I believe.
Yes, from right behind the Hollywood Bowl.
Oh, nice.
Nice.
I'm in like a tent behind the Hollywood Bowl. It's cold.
It's cold? Oh, man.
Well, you got that good tent reception. I like that.
I try.
Right on. Well, Bruce,
Now-
feel free to give us a little bit on your background and how you got into the film industry.
Well, just like many people dealing with their own personal Peter Pan complex, I didn't necessarily fit into corporate culture. I am a little bit too much of I don't know if you'd call it a clown, a screw up. I'm more than happy to take your money. I don't want to function in natural society. So I found that there are various ways of expressing myself, but very few of them left the option of not going to prison. So filmmaking seems like a good way of indulging in the fact that I'm never ever going to mentally pass the age of 11 and just try to tell the stories I want to tell and try to be the kind of crazy, fun, mostly partially irresponsible individual that I am. So I was working as a computer technician, which is a lot of responsibility for people to put on to me. And I don't want to say they were foolish to do so, but I did enjoy their money.
Yes.
And what actually had happened is I got into theater back east because I'm from Philadelphia.
Really?
Yep. I am so like out here, people tend to be passive aggressive. I'm just aggressive. Back east, I'm like this calm, quiet individual. Out here, I just bust through walls. It's amazing.
Nice.
But I got into theater and I met this beautiful, wonderful, amazing woman who always wanted to be an actress, and she was unbelievably talented, and she never tried. And because I hated what I was doing, I was like, maybe if I tried it, I might succeed at it. And that was the start of like, I'm going to be an actor. And then I got my union status. And then there's no union work in Philadelphia. So that was great.
Oh, man.
So, packed up the family, moved to Beverly. Well, not Beverly, North Hollywood, which if you actually live in Los Angeles, you'd be like, oh, yeah, that's not Beverly. That's definitely not Beverly. And I fell into computers, which took a large portion of my life for a while. And then the original thing I did, well, before I say that, I came to the realization that as long as I'm hoping to just make it as an actor, it's never going to happen because I fall in between types. Right. People just don't know what to do with me. And they'll have ideas and they'll put me in this little box or that little box, but it's not where I fit. I'm a lot more versatile than that, I feel. And I came to the realization that if I don't make my own things and if I don't show what I'm trying to do and what I'm capable of, it wouldn't happen. So the very first thing I did because you need to start small. It's important to start very, very small. And with that in mind, I did a 10-episode multi-camera sitcom that had like 8 locations, a crew of 30 people,
Wow.
a cast of 15. And this was the very first thing I tried to produce. It was. I did this.
It took a little bit for me to catch the humor because I was thinking, okay, so he's probably starting a one-man show in a bedroom somewhere.
That's kind of what people do, but I didn't.
You went big first.
Shit. Okay. Yeah. Couldn't continue, man. Sorry.
Yeah.
That was so hilarious.
So I did this thing called Under the Doghouse, which was based on the fact that one of my tights is sort of the lovable loser. I definitely, like, I can really punch you in the heart nuts really hard. It's just something I can do. And I presented a sitcom built around that character. And it was 10 episodes. It took like 9 months to do, even though it only took a month to shoot it. But it was this humongous thing. And that's where I learned how to produce, because I didn't know what I was doing. I just did this thing. And then it was a couple years because I did it. I can't say it was as successful as I would hope because it was highly overwhelming, but it was finished.
Right.
Then, and actually, some of the people that I still work with, I met there. My composer, he contributed music. My sound editor, he did the sound, and gave me a major ass talking to over how to do sound right. But then, the computer stuff kicked in, and it wasn't until 2015 that I did what is the genesis of the project we're really talking about. Stay tuned. Dark Specter. And originally, we talked a little bit about this before we started recording, so I don't know if you have it, but I'll just blurt it out again.
Yeah.
Sure.
Dark Specter was started out of my time. I was in Second City, and shockingly, I was offered a spot on Fred Willard's Moho sketch comedy team. So I was writing sketches for that, and I wrote the sketch that became the original Dark Specter, available on YouTube.
Link here.
Yes, link below. And it was just this sketch comedy thing about this hero, this villain, because I love comic books. I love heroes. As a child, like, my dad used to take me to fantasy films, and I collected comic books. So this is where my mind is, and I'm internally like an 11-year-old kid. My enthusiasm, people get excited and they'll say, and they'll relate it to, sort of like, well, that gets my dick hard. Not me. My excitement is all about like a 5-year-old getting on a roller coaster. You get me excited, and I'm like, ready to go? We're ready to go. And I'm just like,
Pre-boner.
Yep, pre-boner.
Pre-boner.
Story of my life. Oh God. I wrote the sketch. We did it live. It had a great response. And I thought to myself, I need to record that because I wrote the villain with me in mind, even though I didn't perform it. But they were sketch comedy characters. But it was good. I was very proud of it. And, it had some decent special effects. It told a neat, cute little story. But it had a very specific point where it was the hero and a villain, and their fight gets interrupted by the villain's mother, and how humiliating that is. But somebody asked me, if the answer isn't, well, the villain's obviously a loser, right? If the answer isn't that, then why would the mother be there? Why is the mother there at this fight? And when I thought about it, to me, the logical conclusion was if she's there, she couldn't be anywhere else. That meant he needed her there to keep watch on her. That implies a medical issue. That implies that if she's left alone by herself for too long, something bad could happen. And that was the genesis point for Dark Specter 2.
So, wow, that actually came out of a pragmatic reason why, because I was thinking there was kind of a more of an emotional genesis of why she would be there, because his relationship with her really resonated with me, and I just kind of forgave him murdering the hero. And fuck the hero, he really was a bit smarmy anyways, and he needed to get it in the face. But I mean, you really empathize with Dark Specter when you see his kind of behind the scenes life.
Well, one of the things that it's funny because like as a kid, I always related and unfortunately, I am one of nature's nice guys. So when I would play video game role-playing games, I was always the paladin. I was always the good guy and always try right. Even like when I played Fallout and you had the option of playing it any way you wanted. And I played it like a hero. I once tried to play it like the villain. I was incapable of doing it. But I wanted to explore because you see these stories, especially in the heroes, and they'll sometimes delve into the villains, but it's never told from their perspective, not really. And I also wanted to present, when I began thinking about it, is it possible to be at the same time evil and yet a good son? So, can you be somebody who has empathy and care, but also have a disregard for society? And what brings somebody to that level? How do you get to that point? What does that mean? And in fact, Dark Specter, just like Dark Specter 1 was a launching off point for Dark Specter 2, Dark Specter 2 is a launching off point for what I hope to pitch and sell as a series built around the Dark Specter and his world.
Hell yeah.
And
I would watch that.
Of course you would. You need to. You must.
Yes.
And this is why there needs to be that series. But there will really start investigating what makes a person like this tick. In fact, just last weekend, I wrote a Dark Specter 3. I don't think I'll ever be able to produce it because I just don't have $250,000. And
right.
And just like this, Dark Specter 1 is a vast jump from Dark Specter 2. Mm-hmm. Dark Specter, the script for Dark Specter 3 is a vast jump from Dark Specter 2. There are many more characters, a much more intensive fight thing, more people involved in it. It would require a big investment or a decent sized bank robbery. But the idea of writing it was to lay out these concepts. We do have a pilot. We do have a Bible that I'm meeting tomorrow with my producing partners to finalize the pilot and also to strengthen up the Bible before we go around and pitch it. But we have lots of concepts that I think it's a unique take that what we're trying to do. Of course I would. It's me doing it. So you're not going to hear me go, you know what? I think I've managed to generically make it exactly the same sort of
every other movie you've already seen. Right?
Like every movie you've already seen, just not as good. That's what.
You know what? I love that. We need on our network.
Yes. We were shooting for the middle and we missed it just by a little bit. So it's a little lower than the middle. That's what we were going for.
Well, I think, for anybody listening who's hasn't seen it and is trying to get an idea of where Dark Specter 2 is aesthetics wise, I mean, it's actually pretty ambitious. I mean, there's CG, there's people in it. I mean, it's not just two people on a couch talking about shit. I mean, yes. There's a lot going on, and it is very impressive. I was not expecting that. It's really fucking good, man, and it's really it's pretty scaled, I think. So I can't wait to see the scripts even of what's coming next, man. This thing does need to be expanded and expounded upon.
I'm very happy to hear you say that.
Yeah.
How long, what was the whole, I guess, timeline of Dark Specter 2? So let me take it back further. 2015, Dark Specter 1.
There's an entire saga behind the production of Dark Specter. Not actually the production, the post-production of Dark Specter 2. So originally, I didn't even have even though I had ideas for what a Dark Specter thing would be, I had no intention of doing it, and it wasn't really planned out. What happened is, one of my producing partners at the time, who I've since unfortunately had a falling out with, she was like, hey, I'm renting all this camera equipment for this thing I'm doing, but I'm going to have it for a certain amount of time. We should shoot something else. And she was like, a Dark Specter thing. I was like, okay, cool. So I began writing it. And then her thing fell through, and then we had a falling out. But meanwhile, I had written this Dark Specter 2. And I decided, you know what, I'm going to produce this. Now, one of the key things about this is in Dark Specter 1, there were visual effects. And the guy who did it, his name is Art Hackhervian. I might have butchered his name. And if so, I am so sorry because Art deserves much better than that. But Art did the VFX and he was on board for a Dark Specter 2, which was awesome, which meant effects were going to cost us nothing, which is just production.
Damn.
But damn is right. Wait till we get to it. So I wrote it. I approached my friend Richard Tatum, who is like a fairly successful voiceover actor. He's one of the top theater directors in Los Angeles. And he was at the time just beginning to make his way into directing for film and television. And at the time, his stuff was sort of like, you know, 2 people in a room and, you know, the smaller scale stuff that you start with. And I was like, hey, I want to do this thing. And he had loved Dark Specter 1. He was like, I'm in. And then my buddy Manuel, who at the time I was in Second City with, he was like, if you're doing another one, I want to be on board as a producer. I want to pass out money and like have my arms folded on set and feed people and be the big man. And I was like, you got it, buddy. So I had this team together and we pretty much went from, hey, let's do this to shooting in a month.
Shit.
Wow.
It was 3 days of shooting over. Basically, it was funny because each day was spaced out a month in between, partially because it just took time to find things. And fight day, which was day 2, was a massive undertaking. First day was the newscast, which a high school called Saugus High School and a guy named Wade Williams, who was a teacher there, he let us shoot there for free. The basic deal was we'll shoot there. We have a couple hours to do it. And we give his students credit. And also, like, there was like something we had to sign. They actually got school credit as well as their first IMDb credits for it.
Nice.
Cool.
Yeah, so like they were like, and they were really, really good, on point, dead serious. And even though it was like us in a green screen room, like the camera guy, like me doing sound, and the director, and then the actors, you know, I brought $300 worth of craft services. Because, and for anyone who's going to get into film, for anyone who is thinking about doing this, if you have no money, even if you have money, the most important thing you have is craft services and meals. Do not cheap out on meals because people, whether you pay them or not, if you feed them well, will kill themselves for you. But even if you're paying them or not, if you have cheap food and you have like low-level craft services, they're going to do their bare minimum for you.
Wow.
It really is the most important aspect of film production, I just punched my microphone. It really is.
You know, I like that you brought that up because I feel that way too. I mean, in Hawaii, food is a huge thing. Like when you come here, you always get, you know, you go to somebody's house, it's like food to the point you're like, no. I feel that's important. Craft, feed them well, spend money there. We always hear about sound because we asked them to list what's the most important thing to never skip.
We've never heard craft services.
We've never heard craft services before. I mean, sound's important too. Right, obviously, right?
Like you wouldn't think that would be like, don't go cheap on that. That's got to be like that.
I fully agree with that. And so much so that I've personally bought my own lavs, my own boom mic, my own boom pole. I don't do it. But I have the equipment because sound is incredibly important. Like, and you can't cheap out on sound. I mean, there's a lot of stuff. One of the things that's occurred recently is, did you see Lunchtime is Over, my Office Combat comedy?
Oh, yeah.
I did.
Loved it.
I did.
Another thing for you guys to find in the links below.
Yes.
Listen to that sexy voice.
It's important when you're going links below to go lower and entice people.
Below.
Get that link.
Yes. I don't know why I found that funny, but get that link. Just did it for me.
Get it.
But I was talking to Gilbert, who was a buddy from a stunt class I was in, and he helped me produce Lunchtime is Over. And Lunchtime is Over was sort of me helping Gilbert learn how. Like, if you're going to produce, I'm not going to say I'm a professional, but this is how I do it. Like, everything's important, and it really doesn't matter what element it is. What's the most important part of filmmaking? Well, obviously the acting is the most important part of filmmaking, aside from the cinematography, which is the most important part of filmmaking, aside from the sound, which is really the most important part of filmmaking, aside from the lighting, which is definitely the most important part of filmmaking, aside from set design, which, let's face it, is the most important part of filmmaking. Apart from the post-production process, which is the most important part of filmmaking, aside from the marketing, which is really the most important part of filmmaking, aside from the food, which, when it comes down to it, is the most important part of filmmaking.
The food.
Yes, it's all the most important part.
Bruce, I gotta ask. So, what's the what would you consider the, I guess, high grade craft food, and then like what would be the I guess the dish that makes it low, like
a tube of donuts and water.
Yeah. Oh, I brought Krispy Kremes, guys.
First off, what is a tube of donuts? Where the hell do you get a tube of donuts?
That image just popped into my head.
I got an image of like, you know, those tennis balls. You take the tennis, you put donuts in that tube. You put that, and you put it in the chute. It'll go
like
flying.
A jug of water. I don't know, and like a big ass table, and there's those two things. I just
we
show up at that.
We got a tube of milk for y'all. Oh my god!
A PA goes around with like a tube of donut to squirt a little in everybody's mouth. Here you go. Here you go, Bob.
Everybody got us.
Here's 3 tubes.
Okay, good.
Oh, we're going fancy at 3 tubes. Oh. Obviously, the lowest form of food you can get is a tube of donuts.
They're not even glazed. Come on, man.
That's a different tube. That's an entirely different tube. You got to spring extra for that tube.
Oh my god.
To be honest, if like, the food you don't get, unless it's second meal at 2 a.m, is pizza. Pizza is the clearest way of saying to your crew, "Hey guys, I don't give a shit about you."
Oh, okay.
That's true. That's true. That's like you might as well just bring a bag of Doritos or something.
Yeah,
this is the food.
Is it no? Is that because it goes cold and it's shitty, or it's because there's no thought behind it, or?
Well, there's no thought behind it, and that's so
true. That is true.
I mean, under ideal circumstances, somebody will make a homemade fried chicken meal, which I had happen on the first day of Under the Doghouse, but that's not real. So, there's still limitations. So, for example, on Dark Specter 2, day 1, we didn't have a meal per se because it was just 2 hours at a high school. We just had a lot of craft services, and I always overbuy my craft services. So I have pastries, I have candy, I have chips, I have some kind of healthy bar thing, I have fresh fruit or fresh vegetables, I have soda, Gatorade, juice. I do this. I have variety. Everyone's happy, and at the end of the day, I'm not taking because there was like a month in between this. I'm not taking it home. So there's some of it that goes home, like the candy would keep, but the chips wouldn't, the pastries wouldn't. So everybody there gets to take it with them. Like take it. That makes people happy.
Sure. Yeah.
So on the day of shooting, I don't know if you have it, and I'm going to pronounce it because I can barely speak English, and I certainly can't speak Spanish in any way, shape, or form, but El Polo Loco, and I know I butchered Polo. And I'm sorry to any of my Latino listeners right now. I did not mean to do it. Manny, I am so sorry. Manny, I'm so sorry. But we got our meal on the flight day of Dark Specter. We didn't have an official breakfast. We did have oatmeal, cereals, pastries, and then I also specifically got donuts. So that was, and then there was the rest of the craft services. And there was on flight day, there was $250 worth of craft services. Wow. The meal was El Polo Loco, sorry. And a large spread. We had beans, we had tortillas, we had churros, we had other. Oh, we had
I love churros.
Refried beans. We had a whole bunch of different stuff, and people really enjoyed that. And we were out before we needed to have another meal. And then on day 3, which was the house stuff, There was where we were shooting in Burbank. It was close to a Chinese restaurant that I particularly like. And so we had like 3-4 different entrees. We had fried rice, lo mein, egg rolls. We had, I think we had like cheese wontons. Oh. So there was like this whole this spread. And also we had, once again, a ton of craft services. And this made people happy. A little trick that I like to employ. It's like, I'm deceiving you. You fools.
You guys been had. Eat that food.
We got more knives than forks, y'all. So sorry about that.
On lunchtime is over, we weren't having an official breakfast, but I have a waffle maker, and I got this waffle maker back during Under the Doghouse, and so it's like we're not having an official breakfast, but there will be donuts. There'll be other pastries, and there will be a waffle making station. And so we have batter, and we also have sausages. We make sausages as well. So we had like, syrup, whipped cream, chocolate chips, and maybe something.
Oh, man.
And this is me not providing a breakfast, bear in mind. Right. So
it sounds like you do provide.
well, this is on Bruce's sets. This is what he doesn't consider breakfast. Is basically an awesome ass spread, but it's like, it's just low key. Yeah, it's just whatever's, guys. But I would work on that set. That's what I mean. Ooh, you make me hungry, and also wanting to just show up and hold a light or something.
Right, and that's the thing is that does it cost extra? Of course. Like, is this money? Like, do I waste money here? I don't think of it as a waste, but everybody like. At the end of the day, everyone's walking away with food that we didn't use because I would rather waste money on food that people don't eat and make sure that they're happy than, well, here's a bag of bagels and here's 1 tub of cream cheese, not even flavored because I've not seen enough work out of you to make sure that you deserve strawberry cream cheese. God damn it. You prove that. And maybe tomorrow.
Till then, eat your plane.
Oh my God.
I like that. I'm really glad we had this conversation because this does need it.
This does matter, and it sounds like everyone leaves happy, like not like shit, man. It was a terrible shoot today, but hey, I got.
And on top of that,
belly.
we got unflavored fucking butter paste.
Right?
Fuck this fucking shoot.
He gave us plain bagels. I want the raisin kind. Come on, man. Oh,
not even real bagels. It kind of came out of the freezer.
Oh,
not even real bagels.
That's lava rock right there. That's
here. Eat a frozen bagel because I said
there is not one Jew on this planet, and I can say this, I'm a Jew, who would touch those bagels. And yet, this is what they brought to set. I am insulted culturally. I am insulted as an artist.
Oh my God. Damn. Wow, that sounds like craft services. It's really important, everyone. Very important.
It really is. Like, because people, like, and as much as you can, and as much like one of those things you'll hear people go like, I'm very proud of not paying. Like, I want to be a low budget auteur. Great, wonderful. I don't. I want to have a budget, and what I want that budget for, so I can pay people. I want my cast paid. I want my crew paid, and there are people who have worked with me for a long time for free or for low budget, and it's not that like, hey, that person's going to cut me a break. I don't want them to cut me a break. I want to pay them their fair wage. I want to pay them over their fair wage. I want them to want to work with me, and I want to take care of them the way they take care of me. And that is how it should be, because that's how I want people to treat me.
Nice.
And, it's important to carry yourself and present yourself the way you would like people to view you and respect you. I don't like having people, like one of the other things I insist upon is nobody on my sets yell at anybody. Like if it's not in the script, we don't yell. And the reason for that is you should be able to communicate what you need and how you need to do it without yelling at somebody. It doesn't matter whether we're behind. It doesn't matter if some things are going wrong. You shouldn't yell. You should treat your crew with respect. You should treat your cast with respect. You should treat everybody with respect. And if you can't do that, you're in the wrong business.
I like that attitude. I mean, because shit gets stressful. I mean, but still, right? That's no excuse to just be, fuck, everyone sucks. Get on my face with that.
Can we not do this so stupidly?
Have you now? Those, I mean, everybody's proper upbringing would teach those lessons, and yet still the world turns out assholes. Have you been on sets where that's like the norm, or that's just you? Like, okay, I'm doing my own thing, and part of it is this kind of atmosphere where we communicate without being fuckheads.
You know, I've dealt with a couple directors who were a bit yelly, and the thing is, like, how to describe it? I'm one of those people that I don't think I am greater or lesser than anybody. I see myself on level with everyone, be it you know, just some person at a gas station, or be it an A-list celebrity. I treat and speak to everyone exactly as I'm talking to you. But one of the side effects is I am not naturally subordinate, even if you place me in a subordinate role. So if you yell at me, my response is to yell right back at you and question why you can't communicate what you need in a manner befitting a human being. So I remember once I had an audition, and it was for a play called The Boys Next Door. And years ago back east, it was the last play I did before moving out here, and I love it. It's about these 4 specially able people living in a home together and how they're running their like case manager into the ground. And I played a character named Norman Belansky. It's my favorite role. I love it. I love it. I love it. And I had the opportunity to audition for it for a theater production out here. And I was sort of the shoo-in for the role, I think. But then again, that could just be my ego. But the director said to me, he was like, how do you feel about a director who yells? And I said to him, I was like, well, you can yell at the rest of the cast, but you better think twice before you yell at me. I was like, I expect you to be professional enough that you can communicate with me like a normal human being. I was like, if you can't, I'm probably not your guy. I wasn't his guy. But it is a high-stress environment, especially when doing your own productions like I'm doing. Like, we had on fight day 13 hours. We got there at 6 in the morning. We needed to be out at 8 at night. And that was from, we got there, set up, get ready, shoot, clean up, and get out. And that's pressure. The thing is, all filmmaking is pressure. You need to be able to deal with the pressure. Now, I will say, as much as I hated being a computer technician, it did repeatedly put me in a circumstance where I had to deal with high pressure situations while people thought their businesses were going to shit. So, like, one of my biggest clients for a while was a company at the international terminal of LAX, the Los Angeles airport. So I've been in positions where, you know, their computer's down and it's a computer controlling the baggage, like a baggage belt system. Oh. So things are delayed. And by delayed, we're not talking, oh my God, will I be able to bill my clients? We're talking, you know, if this isn't working, millions of dollars of functioning airport equipment and planes coming to and fro, delays, real money is happening. So I've dealt with that. I sure as hell can be on your set and say my lines without choking and needing like to be hugged for 10 minutes. Like, and
I need a moment.
Yeah. I don't know how I feel about this camera position. I just need to get used to it. I just need you to leave me alone. Like,
oh man.
True, right? It all starts from the top.
Yes.
But it all fucking reflects on the top too, right?
Oh, yes. And in fact, I once had a circumstance where a lady had hired me to do her, it was a classmate, and she hired me to produce her demo reel. And on the one hand, she was a very talented actress. On the other hand, she was a flighty narcissist. And that's coming from me, who is a very top-line narcissist.
We're all narcissists here, brother.
Yes, I know, but I'm bigger than the rest of you. And she didn't yell at people, but she, like, we put this shoot together, and it was like 3 scenes in one day, and there were 3 locations, and I wrote scenes for her, and I found actors for her, and I found really good actors for her. And she didn't want to get, like, and bear in mind, like, all these things take time. And even though we shot 3 things, there was a 4th thing. She wanted to try a bit of physical comedy. So I set up a physical comedy thing. We're talking 4 scenes one day. That is a lot of time. So the first thing she didn't do is learn her lines.
Wow.
Ooh.
Fired already.
Yeah. The second thing, she didn't want to get up. So we couldn't start when I wanted to start, which was like, all right, we'll be up at 5. We'll be here at 6. Oh, I don't get up that early.
I'm comfortable with the 1 hour workday. So, but could we just 4 scenes now and a little bit of action? Wow.
Yes. So we had to start at 8. Like she agreed at 8 o'clock in the morning, but we didn't get our first shot off till 11 because we couldn't focus her. She, like the makeup artist whom I have a makeup artist named Dylan Bonney. She is my glamour goth. I love her so much. She is friendly. She is warm. She is talented. And Dylan, like it took Dylan an hour and a half to get this woman's makeup on. And after the shoot was done, I was like, what happened? She was like, she wouldn't sit still. I'd tell her, sit down, close your eyes. And she'd stand up and open her eyes like really wide. I don't know. But what ended up, so all of and everyone involved in the shoot were my friends. These are like, the director of Dark Specter 2 directed it. She wouldn't listen to him. She was like, I want you to direct. I was like, no, we hired my director, like this guy who truly understands storytelling and acting to bring out the best you can give. Listen to him, please, for the love of God. Listen to Richard. Like he's here at such a low rate as a favor to me to make you your best. Just give him a shot, to give it like a possible chance. He's great, but he's not a miracle worker. Like you have to work with him. Otherwise it doesn't work.
And you have to be awake and know what you're saying.
Oh,
only
God.
2 things.
Yeah, those 2 things. So, by the middle of the day, because she didn't care and then my gaffer Spencer, so my buddy Spencer, he's been gaffing for me since Under the Doghouse. I met him when he wasn't even 21 yet. And Spencer got off a job at 1 o'clock in the morning, went to bed, woke up at 5 to be here. She's halfway through the day. She's complaining to him about having to get up and having to memorize his line. He's dying because he's not slept in a week.
Right.
He's there at under his rate as a favor, as a kindness to me, not to her, to me. My buddy Matt, he's there as a kindness. The cinematographer, once again, favor. They're checked out by the end of the day. They're still working at a decent pace. You wouldn't say they weren't doing it, but there's a difference between what they do for me and what they were doing there. They were like, we're just going to get through. It was like war now. It's like, we're just going to make it out of the foxhole together. She managed to take the set and put it into the ground by her attitude.
Wow.
It comes from the top. Even if somebody else is directing, if somebody else is helping you produce, if people know it's your project, and with like Dark Specter 2 and Lunchtime is Over, it all stems from it being my project. My attitude is the cue that everybody goes off of. So if I'm positive, if I'm hardworking, if I'm making a joke, even if I'm being focused, if I'm not like, this is my set, I am the star. If I'm sort of, if I'm serious, if I'm warm, if I'm friendly, if I'm focused, if it matters to me, that's how everybody else is going to approach it. And of course, even under bad circumstances, professionals will be professionals. But, my buddy Matt, who is a high-level professional as an AC and an AD, this guy has come out and I'm like, Bruce, I'm here for 12 hours or I'm here, I can only be here till 3. And then I've got to go home because I've got to get ready for tomorrow. And then he's there till 6 or 7 because he didn't leave, even though he really should have. He even told me he should have. And it's like, Matt, aren't you supposed to go? I was like, no, I'm just going to get through this setup. We'll get through this setup. Then I'll go. and that's because like we're close friends now, but we're friends because I treated him well on Under the Doghouse, and I was nice and I cared.
Wow.
And that's a very, very important thing.
Yeah, for sure. And this was all for a demo reel. This whole
Her demo reel. I'm
reel.
getting pissed. This is her shit that you're pulling together with your
that
homies.
she should have put together. I feel like, or at least do half the work. You know, I mean, because it's at the end, the final product is going to go to her for her to showcase, right?
Yes.
I don't feel like she understood that the way she approached it.
Well, I mean, I don't want to talk too much like about her. One, I'm not going to name her.
No.
But
right. Yeah.
But like
put her on blast.
Yeah.
Twitter. Fuck you, Danielle.
Yeah, fuck you, Danielle. She wanted me ultimately to develop this TV show idea that she had for her. But I really did my best because I liked her. I mean, I do like her. Even now, I like, as she's trying, and she wanted to develop this TV show, and I pointed out to her, I was like, look, you have to know that, because she was like, I want to be like Roseanne. I was like, yeah, but Roseanne worked 16-hour days, like all week. Like, yeah, it was her at the top and she got all the glory, but she also was the first one up and the last one to bed. Like, she was the one writing it. She was the one doing all these things. And yes, there was a lot of help. And yes, there was a lot, like, there were a lot of, hands on deck. But ultimately, like, she was plugging away ultra hard. And then her answer to that was sort of like, well, and then she didn't learn her lines. And I was like, how are you going to have your own show if you don't learn your lines? She was like, well, they don't do it for Curb Your Enthusiasm. It's like, we can do it that way. It's like, we can't do it that way. It's like, first off, it's an entirely different concept. Second off, they were like some of the best improvisers, and it isn't improvised the way you think it is. It's heavily premised. It's set up in such a way. There's still a lot going on. It's still written. It's just the actual lines aren't. It's not like, hey, we can show up at 2 p.m. and we'll shoot for a half hour, and lo and behold, we've got a half-hour show.
Right. Yeah. Anybody listening who doesn't know, that's not what filmmaking is.
No.
If you're that magnetic, go on YouTube then and be a star that way.
Content. Shoot right for the middle.
Right.
By the way, I've got to credit Phil Lamar with that statement. I was at a Long Beach Comic Expo, a part of the and taking part of the E3 conference. And he was talking all about like content, shoot straight for the middle. So that one's Phil Lamar.
Nice.
He's another Second City alum, right?
Yeah. And of course, Mad TV.
Mad TV.
Like 80 bazillion voices. Right now, chances are half the cartoons you see have Phil Lamar in there somewhere.
And Pulp Fiction, right?
Yes.
That was
Marvin.
Fucking shoot Marvin in the face.
Yep.
It was an accident.
Oh my god. Nice. Yeah, I mean,
so
it feels like, I mean, you got like behind the scenes, you got this entire crew that's working, for one person, and it's like a lot of collaboration is involved. And I feel like you go into this industry knowing like you're always going to be working with a lot of different people, and I feel like you just got to know it's always going to be someone different, and they have different styles of working, and I feel like you're just going to have to, it's never going to go one way, it feels like,
No, and really probably one of the better skills to develop is how you handle and deal with mistakes and problems. Because I don't know of a production that I've done, my friends have done, or indeed even all the ones I know about in Hollywood that hasn't had things go wrong. And part of what you see on the screen is not what was intended originally, but what went wrong was dealt with.
Right.
Like some of the most iconic things, like Jaws, the ultimate like thriller in the water, like it scared a nation, People were afraid of sharks forever because of Jaws. What makes Jaws so great? You don't see the shark. Only occasionally. Why is that? The shark didn't work. Otherwise, you would have seen the shark every other frame.
Every fucking scene, right? Yeah. Oh, eat the leg,
movie
eat
was
the face.
like, and the shark's name, I'm honored to say, was Bruce. So it would have been like Jaws, Bruce's tail. That's what it would have been. But it wasn't, because the shark kept sinking to the bottom of the ocean. And in the end, they could only show so much of it because when it wasn't sinking, it wasn't moving correctly. And yet, brilliance came out of it. I'm sure everybody here is a fan of Star Wars. Star Wars was saved in the edit. The story we know of a Star Wars is not what was intended to be on the screen. It was editors going, "Oh my God, we don't have a movie. Oh my God, this is terrible.
Lots of sand.
This is really, really, really bad. We have to do something." The entire Battle of Yavin, it wasn't under threat. They added that in editing. The actual thing that builds all the tension, oh my God, we're all going to die, wasn't there to begin with. It just wasn't there.
Damn. That's true.
That's what dealing with, oh crap, it's all gone wrong. What do? Well, let's see if we can save it. That's what we can do.
So that's all on the producer, and I'm guessing like on a small indie set, the script supervisor was like, "This is not gonna work, guys. We need to do it another
For
way."
some reason, Ono is in love with the position of the script supervisor. And storyboard artist.
Storyboard, yes. Oh yeah. By the way, I gotta ask Bruce my question.
Yep.
Yes.
I preempted this. It's my own fault.
So on Dark Specter and let's see, Lunchtime is Over. Did you do any storyboarding for those?
Richard storyboarded. The director Richard, he storyboarded Dark Specter, especially the fight. And actually, it's not that he sat there and he drew storyboards. What we did is we went into my backyard one day, and it was the cinematographer. It was Richard. It was
the hero.
Yeah, Mark was there, and Richard would position us, and he was like, "I want this to be here, and I want this to be here." So he took a series of photos that he set up as the storyboards.
Nice.
It was a little bit less so in the house with the mother and son. With Lunchtime is Over, it wasn't storyboarded at all, because Lunchtime is Over.
Really?
Yeah, Lunchtime is Over is funny in as much as it's sort of that one's sort of I'm trying to think of a way of putting it. It started off as like, "Hey, I'm taking this stunt class. The teacher insists that we film our routines, and we film ourselves doing these things, and then we put it on your demo, put it on your stunt demo. So you have a stunt demo that's full of like a class full of people doing the exact same thing you are." And I was like, if I want stunt footage, I'm going to need to film something. So I gathered a couple people, Gilbert, hey, let's film some stunt stuff. And then it dawned on me, nobody wants to watch you do a stunt thing. Nobody cares. It's neat. It's neat for 5 seconds, but then it's sort of
Bruce
like
falls off building. Bruce falls off chair.
Here's me doing a seiyuchi. That's nice. Here's me reacting to a hit. That's nice. So it was sort of like, okay, if we're going to do this, let's do this right. Let's frame this. So we got through the stunt class. An associated person was Tekla Hertrova. I'm probably butchering her name, Tekla. I'm so sorry. Whom had taught for Mike. Had also she was the stunt double for the little girl in Logan. She's a professional stunt woman, and she wants to move into stunt choreography. And I reached out to her, and she was like, "Yeah, cool. Let's set something up." So she set up the fights, but I'm the one who came up with the framing device, where it's sort of like, okay, if we're going to do this, I have access to a warehouse because I had a client, and even though I hadn't worked for them in a year and a half, they're very amused by my filmmaking. They love my filmmaking, and so they let me shoot in this warehouse. Now you'll notice that on small independent films, a lot of people like to shoot in warehouses. They tend to be empty. Chances are they tend to be broken into.
Right.
Where the warehouse I'm in looks like a live, active, working workplace,
Right.
which adds to make it feel like something's actually being shot. So I wanted it to be sort of like a Buster Keaton style physical comedy juxtaposed with like a Jackie Chan style martial arts thing. And then Katie brought on Katie is the friend who Tekla brought on. And then like we would suggest various things like Gilbert wanted to do. Did you notice that there's a little homage to Rush Hour in Lunchtime is Over?
The hold hand jump kicks.
Yes.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, that whole spin around thing, that's Gilbert. Gilbert wanted to do that. He was like, I want to do this. We got to do this.
You go this way, I go that way. No.
Yep. Somebody wanted to do a knife disarm, but I didn't want to do a knife disarm. Like, we didn't want to have a knife. So, I came up with the whole idea of the pen disarm.
The red marker.
Yep. And the whole point was to try to do these things and not, like, to make them funny but not stupid. Because you can easily, like, one of the best compliments I got on Lunchtime is Over is like, it's so funny, it's so brutal, it looks like the fight's a fight. And that was the trick, to make the humor and the fight, so that it's not like, oh, we're playing around fighting.
Right. What I found most interesting about that was the story of it. Like corporate versus the warehouse guys during their lunchtime, these working class guys, they're like trying to eat their meal. And then these fuckers from upstairs is trying to be like, hurry up, man. There's more work to do. We need to laze around upstairs. Oh, fuck you. Let's showdown.
And it's really funny. Two things. One, there's because the guy who did the sound is the same guy who did Dark Spectre 2. When the boss looks in at the office and they're all like sitting around, it's the newscast from Dark Spectre 2 that's playing. So the whole idea, and his thought for that is, one, he felt there needed to be something to fill the space, but two, he wanted to have the corporate people fucking off and interrupting their fucking off to go interrupt the warehouse workers at their lunch.
Nice.
So we knew what the fights were going to be, because they were heavily choreographed. They were heavily practiced, even though we only had one practice with everybody there. So we could work on everything. And then we never got a chance to rehearse in the location. So we were filming that action for the first time in location live.
You guys never went, so you didn't storyboard, so you never went over the blocking?
Oh, no. We practiced what the fights were. But how they were positioned, that was being handled by Katie on the fly. And by me for the emotional stuff on the fly. So, we actually had a big week on. It was shot over 2 days. To be honest with you, this really should have been shot over 4 days or 5 days. We shot it over 2.
Right.
We got into the location after work on Friday, so at 6 o'clock. And we sat there and we did as much pre-planning as we could up until 2 a.m, at which point I said to everyone, look, I know we could sit here till we had to, all night, but we have to function. So everybody needs to leave now. So Katie, Ted, who was the cinematographer, went home, passed out. We were back 4 hours later. Oh. So everything I was doing on 4 hours sleep.
Shit.
Wow.
And then, the first day, the first part of the day, we were shooting the framing device. So we shot up. So from the start of the day, the other thing, we didn't have 17-hour days. It was 12, 13-hour day and then out, because it's too much. Even though, hey, we're professionals, we should be able to shoot until we got everything we need. It's a bunch of stunts. And I didn't want people risking themselves. I didn't want to risk myself. Better safe than sorry. Better to be scrambling to deal with okay, we didn't get enough footage, than it would be, hey, let's go take Gabe in to get his broken neck.
Right.
So we had to run. So we basically blistered through, cut it about 6 o'clock at night, sent everyone home. I would get home more about 9 o'clock at night, came back the next day, did it again. And that was it. We ended up sneaking back into the location the following weekend to get a couple things that we felt we needed that we missed. They weren't stunts, but like after I'm knocked out of the way and then you see me notice the guy I'm going to go for, that was a pickup. Talon, like right before he notices Bill and we like, and then the close-ups on Talon, those were like the follow-up weekend and also the close-up on the pen. These are things, it was sort of like, we need to go back and get a couple things to make this work because we're missing these pieces.
Nice.
Now, on pickup shots like that, which are done on a totally separate time and all of that, how do you manage continuity? Like, does someone record the settings of all the lights?
Script supervisor.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, we didn't really have a script supervisor. It was Ted. He hates being called Teddy. Ted, the director of photography. He and it also was Mike, the colorist. So, you know, me and Talon. And the other thing we got was the arm flinging the notebook, because so, you know, you're not going to see enough of Marine, like you're just seeing her arm. So she's wearing the same white like blouse that she was wearing. So you just saw that. Then me, you see like, you know, I'm not changing that much in a week. My hair's not growing that longer. So, you know, as long as I have my costume on, I'll look the same. And then the color was a little bit different and Mike color corrected it. Talon was in Gilbert's outfit, which like is 3 sizes too big. So what you don't see in Talon's close-up is behind him is Marine bunching up his clothes so that it fits him.
Wow. You guys totally nailed the effect because you cannot tell that at all.
Yeah. And once again, that's sort of the whole thing about filmmaking is, oh, we screwed that up. Well, how do we see this?
That's movie magic, everyone.
How do we make this work? And then, of course, the other thing that I've learned is not to micromanage. So you have to find people you trust so that you can very much go, here's this task. I'm going to check in once a week. I'm just going to check in, see where you're at, offer guidance when you need it. And if but you can't be on top of them because there are too many things to be on top of. And then everything bogs down. So, you know, I'm like, when it goes to color, there was Mike and it was Mike and it was Ted. Because one, I'm colorblind, and if I'm not colorblind, I'm certainly color ignorant. So you don't want me making color calls. You just don't, because everybody's going to be a soft shade of chartreuse, and I don't even know what that color is. So meanwhile, Ted and Mike are going back and forth, and Ted will give notes, Mike will do. Ted will give notes, Mike will do, and nobody. And I'm leaving that to them. It's like just trusting that they won't be a disaster. Sending sound off to Vince, you know, let Vince do what Vince does. And then, you know, he'll send me his work. Like when it's like 90% done, it'll be like, oh, like I wanted this and this and that. But generally speaking, like Vince adds so much stuff to it. It's truly amazing. Even things that you don't know and don't realize. And also to some degree, unfortunately, there's just not sonic space for, like, here's a little Easter egg. It's an Easter egg now because it doesn't read. But when Talon gets hit in the face with the notebook, it plays the Windows 95 stop error. And like 1 or 2 people might have picked up on it, but I've listened every time I watch Lunchtime is over. I listen for it. I never hear it. It just, in all the things that are going on, there isn't the sonic space. But just knowing he put it there is such a reward. Oh. Okay. Knowing that, like, it's the Dark Specter 2 newscast. Yeah. Like these are the things he adds. He, you know, small, just subtle things. Like, you know, that this is in its own little world the moment Bill signals everybody to come out of the office. But you hear him go, like there's a little bit of a martial arts sound to him signaling them. That tells you without telling you what's coming up soon. You know this is a fight.
Mm-hmm.
Even like things are going down, because otherwise his hand wouldn't make that noise. Like, I didn't ask for that. I like, that was him. And so you don't need to micromanage him. Ted is a great cinematographer. He mostly works as an AC, but he's a great cinematographer. And it was his idea that have it all steady cam. The camera's always alive.
Mm.
It's like, that's Ted. And then of course, like the mirror shot, Ted was like that was Ted's insistence. Like, if we're doing this, I want to do the mirror shot. I want to do the mirror shot. We did another project where we had a mirror shot that didn't quite work the way he wanted. I mean, it looks good, but he's not happy with it. Like, it's like, it looks good. It was like, it doesn't. Don't tell me. You don't know what you're talking about. So Ted was like, you got to give me the mirror shot, because there's these big mirrors in the warehouse. I'm like, go for it. And so
nice.
Like, it's a neat shot.
All right. Well, that is it for this episode. Thank you for checking it out. Be sure to check out this episode's show notes for links to all our social media sites. But other than that, be sure to visit our website, nekkomedia.com. That's NEKKO media.com. And we also be on Twitter and Instagram. Very active on both of those. And you can check those out at cynical_mass. That's CINECAL_MASS. And feel free to get in touch through email, cinephilesandscenobites@gmail.com. Any movie recommendations, we'd love to check it out. Any screeners, we'd love to review. Any potential guests? Yeah, we love having guests on the show too.
Yeah, if you're a filmmaker, fucking hit us a line and we'll get you on the show. Ask you your top 6 movies and what it's like to be an artist like you.
Oh, yes. And any fellow cinephiles and Cenobites, you are welcome.
Yes.
Any place that they can hit you up, Marks?
At villainous_kind, Instagram and fucking Twitter, but don't bother. I rarely check it except when I'm drunk. So okay. I'd either send it to Ono or the show.
Yeah, you can check me out on Twitter at thisisono. That's this is OHNO. Same goes for Instagram.
Oh no.
Yup. All right. Well, thank you again. Take it away, Annika.
This has been a Nekko Media podcast, broadcasting from the Blood Cave, part of the /Potter family. For myself, Annika Pussyfoot, Mox, and Ono, keep the lights on and check under that bed, because there's only one universal truth. No lives matter. That means you. Stay rating, Wokeland.
We have candy. Tiger